Let me reveal a truth that many men never hear. A woman does not always pull away because you were too distant, too independent, or too emotionally unavailable. Sometimes she creates distance because you gave her access to parts of yourself that she had not earned. You gave unlimited trust, endless forgiveness, constant effort, and pieces of your future without protecting your own boundaries. You kept giving, but the balance disappeared, and she felt that shift before you even noticed it. A woman rarely loses interest for no reason. Often, it happens when she realizes you are investing more energy into her than you are investing into yourself. And if you have ever wondered why her attitude changed, why her affection became weaker, or why the respect started disappearing, there is usually a reason behind it. Somewhere along the way, you crossed boundaries you did not even know were there. In this video, we are breaking down the 10 things a man should never do for a woman if he wants to protect his confidence, his identity, and his value. I have seen this pattern happen repeatedly with good men, successful men, and intelligent men who lose respect in relationships because nobody ever taught them how important boundaries truly are. Women are not attracted to confusion. They respond to confidence, emotional strength, and certainty. When a man loses control of himself and starts chasing approval, the relationship often begins to shift in a predictable way. This is the framework that helps men rebuild their confidence, restore their standards, and create healthier relationship dynamics. If you are ready to take control of your life again, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments, "I choose myself again." Because real change begins when you recognize the mistakes that slowly destroy your own value. The first mistake is one that many men make without realizing the damage it creates. Number 1. Never forgive the same betrayal repeatedly. Every man needs to understand this clearly. Betrayal is not something that simply happens by accident. When someone crosses a serious boundary, they make a decision. Many men rush to forgive because they hope love will repair everything. They believe that if they show more patience, more understanding, and more loyalty, the relationship will return to what it was before. But what they fail to see is the message they are sending. When you repeatedly accept disrespect, you are showing that your boundaries can be moved. You are teaching someone that your standards are not as strong as your words. A person may apologize. They may promise change. They may show regret and emotion. But emotions alone cannot erase broken trust. The real damage is not only what happened. The deeper issue is what happens afterward. When you continue accepting behavior that hurts you, you slowly abandon yourself just to keep someone else in your life. A man who respects himself understands that love without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You do not need anger. You do not need revenge. You simply need clarity. You decide what you accept and what you refuse to tolerate. A man who protects his dignity calmly is a man who understands his worth. Respect is not created by allowing everything. It is created by having standards and standing by them. Number 2, never ask permission to live your own life. There is a difference between respecting your partner's opinion and making them the authority over your choices. Many men lose themselves because they start seeking approval for every decision. They stop leading their own lives and begin waiting for someone else to tell them what is acceptable. A healthy relationship requires communication, but it does not require you to ask permission before pursuing your goals. Spending time with friends, accepting opportunities, or making choices that align with your purpose. When a man constantly looks for approval, he slowly gives away his confidence. Think about a simple moment when someone asks you a question. Instead of answering confidently, you immediately look toward your partner for confirmation. Small moments like this can change the way people perceive your independence. A woman wants a partner not someone who has surrendered his own voice. Include her in your life. Listen to her thoughts. Respect her perspective. But never hand over control of your identity. A strong man communicates his decisions. He does not beg for permission to exist. Confidence, direction, and stability create a relationship where both people feel secure. But when you abandon your own path, you create an imbalance where one person leads and the other simply follows. Number 3, never destroy yourself trying to buy validation. Many men fall into the trap of spending money, making expensive gestures, or sacrificing their own comfort just to prove their value to a woman. They believe that if they provide more, give more, and sacrifice more, they will become more appreciated. But genuine attraction cannot be purchased. A woman who truly values you is not connected to you because of what you can buy. She is connected to your character, your confidence, your presence, and the way you carry yourself. When a man destroys his own finances or sacrifices his own goals just to impress someone, he is not showing strength. He is showing that he believes he must earn love. Your worth does not come from what you spend. It comes from your discipline, your purpose, your confidence, and the standards you maintain. The truth is simple. When you use money as a way to gain attention, you teach someone to value what you provide more than who you are. That is how many men slowly lose themselves without even noticing. They drain their finances and their emotions at the same time, believing that more spending automatically means more love. A woman is not impressed by a man destroying himself just to create temporary moments. What creates attraction is stability, confidence, and purpose. A man who has direction and control over his life is far more valuable than a man trying to impress through endless spending. When a man starts living beyond his means, borrowing money, relying on credit, or sacrificing his future just to maintain an image, it does not create admiration. It raises questions about his judgment and his ability to build a stable life. The biggest problem with excessive giving is that it creates an unhealthy expectation. Over time, she may begin connecting your presence with what you provide instead of who you are. You become the person who creates experiences rather than the person who brings strength and stability. Then, when you can no longer maintain that level of spending, the entire dynamic changes. The excitement fades, the pressure increases, and you realize you created an attachment to your resources instead of your character. A man protects his finances the same way he protects his time and his boundaries, through discipline. Your first investment should always be yourself. Your growth, your skills, your education, your health, and the foundation you are building. A woman who truly respects you will respect the structure of your life. But if someone's appreciation only exists because of your money, then your connection is always dependent on what you can provide. Remember this. If you have to constantly spend more just to be valued, you are not being appreciated for who you are. You are being rewarded for what you give. And anything based only on what you provide can disappear the moment the benefits disappear. Control rarely appears in a relationship overnight. It usually enters slowly through small actions that seem harmless at first. A few extra questions, constant check-ins, opinions about every decision, or requests that appear to come from concern. Before a man realizes what is happening, he is no longer experiencing a partnership. He is living under constant observation. When someone starts trying to manage every part of your life, it often comes from insecurity or from sensing that you have stopped taking responsibility for your own direction. But when you allow another person to monitor your location, control your schedule, question every decision, or constantly inspect your private conversations, You create a dynamic that damages trust and attraction. The more someone has to manage you, the harder it becomes for them to respect you. The more they feel responsible for controlling your actions, the less they see you as someone capable of leading himself. A healthy relationship is built on trust, not supervision. The danger of allowing constant control is that it slowly changes who you become. You stop making decisions confidently. You hesitate because you are worried about conflict. They want someone who knows who they are and where they are going. People can feel the difference between genuine honesty and empty approval, the same way you can recognize the difference between real respect and simple tolerance. When a man begins changing the truth just to avoid conflict, he may believe he is protecting the relationship, but in reality, he is slowly weakening the foundation of trust. Small lies create bigger problems over time. Eventually, your words lose their value because the other person starts questioning whether you are being honest or simply saying what they want to hear. Many men lie because they are afraid. They fear arguments. They fear hurting their partner. They fear creating tension. But respect is not lost because you speak honestly. Respect is lost when you are too afraid to be honest. If you pretend to like something you do not, if you ignore unhealthy patterns, or if you constantly agree just to keep peace, you are not creating harmony. You are avoiding reality. Honesty does not mean being cruel. It means having the courage to communicate truth with maturity. You can express concerns without attacking. You can point out problems without disrespect. You can speak clearly without anger. A man who tells the truth becomes a source of stability. A man who hides behind lies becomes someone whose words no longer carry meaning. The truth may not always be comfortable in the moment, but people respect those who stand firmly in reality. Strength is not about pretending to be perfect. Strength is having the courage to remain honest even when honesty is difficult. Number 6. Never ignore the need for healthy boundaries around social life. A woman having her own friends, interests, and social life is completely healthy because independence is an important part of any strong relationship. At the same time, there is a difference between respecting someone's freedom and pretending that every environment has no influence at all. A man should understand that the people around us, the places we spend time in, and the energy we repeatedly expose ourselves to can shape our decisions, our habits, and even the way we think. When someone regularly surrounds themselves with people who have no respect for commitment, relationships, or personal boundaries, that environment can slowly begin to affect their behavior. Group psychology is powerful, and even someone who is normally responsible and grounded can be influenced by the attitudes and values of the people around them. The issue is not about controlling where someone goes or who they spend time with. It is about recognizing that every relationship requires mutual respect. If certain situations repeatedly create problems, disrespect, or a lack of consideration for the relationship, those concerns should not be ignored simply because speaking about them feels uncomfortable. Not only when they are together, but also through the choices they make when they are apart. A man without standards allows confusion to enter his life. A man with clear standards creates understanding. When both partners respect each other's boundaries, the relationship becomes stronger. But when one person refuses any form of responsibility while demanding complete freedom, the foundation begins to weaken. Number 7. Never abandon your purpose for a relationship. One of the fastest ways a man can lose himself is by forgetting the very things that made him who he was before the relationship began. Many men make this mistake when they fall deeply in love because they start reducing their ambitions, delaying their goals, and reshaping their entire future around another person. The problem is that a woman does not need a man who disappears into the relationship. She wants a man who has a life, a vision, and a purpose that she can become a part of. A man without direction often becomes emotionally dependent, measuring his happiness by her attention, her mood, and her availability until his own identity slowly moves into the background. This does not usually happen because he intends to become weaker. It happens because he believes sacrificing everything is proof of love. Yet love does not require you to betray your own potential. When a man gives up his goals for temporary comfort, he sends the message that his path can easily be abandoned. Over time, that creates an imbalance because purpose is what gives a person confidence, discipline, and inner strength. A woman may appreciate being loved and supported, but she does not want to feel like she is responsible for creating the meaning in a man's life. The strongest relationships happen when two people come together as complete individuals, not when one person loses themselves trying to hold on to the other. Build a life you are proud of. Chase your goals. Develop your skills. Strengthen your character. A man becomes valuable not by constantly chasing a woman, but by becoming someone who has a mission, a vision, and a future worth joining. Your purpose is not competition with your relationship. It is the foundation that allows you to bring your best self into it. The moment you sacrifice your entire identity just to keep someone close, you create the very thing you fear: distance. People are not inspired by someone who disappears into them. They are inspired by someone who remains committed to becoming better. Number 8. Never break your commitments just to please her. A person's commitment reveals more about their character than their words ever could. It means understanding the difference between being supportive and constantly abandoning your own responsibilities for temporary situations. Some men cancel important plans, ignore their goals, miss opportunities, or abandon commitments simply because their partner wants attention in that moment. But every time you do this, you communicate something important. Your life can easily be rearranged. Your commitments represent your discipline, reliability, and self-respect. A strong man does not disappear from his responsibilities whenever emotions become intense. He knows how to care for someone while still honoring the promises he has made to himself and others. Love should add value to your life, not require you to destroy the structure that holds your life together. In practice, this means learning how to communicate clearly, set expectations early, and remain steady even when emotions are high. A person who respects you will respect your time, your goals, and the commitments that define who you are. They understand that consistency is part of love, not a threat to it. When a man keeps his word, he creates trust not only in the relationship, but in every area of his life. That trust becomes one of the strongest signs of maturity. A woman may appreciate flexibility, but she will respect a man more when she sees that his priorities are stable and that his character is not easily shaken by pressure or impulse. In the long run, the ability to honor commitments is what makes love sustainable, because it shows that the relationship is being built on discipline, respect, and responsibility rather than constant sacrifice and emotional reaction. When a man constantly abandons his own responsibilities just to manage a woman's emotions, she may begin to see it as a lack of structure, discipline, and personal strength. The problem is not that he cares. The problem is that he starts removing himself from his own life to keep someone else emotionally comfortable. Slowly, he takes on a role where he feels responsible for fixing every feeling, solving every problem, and adjusting everything around her needs. But that is not love. That is losing yourself in the process of trying to be needed. The long-term damage is greater than most men realize. Eventually, resentment begins to grow. He starts feeling frustrated by sacrifices she never asked him to make. while she begins losing respect for a weakness she never intended to create. If your commitments mean nothing to you, they will eventually mean less to everyone around you, and a man who cannot stand firmly in his own life will eventually lose the foundation he built. Number 9. Never pretend to love everything she loves. One of the quickest ways a man can lose his identity in a relationship is by pretending to enjoy every interest, hobby, and preference his partner has. At first, it may seem supportive, romantic, or thoughtful, but underneath the surface, it can send a message that slowly damages attraction, that you are willing to abandon your individuality just to remain close to her. A woman's interests, hobbies, passions, and personal world are part of what makes her unique. She should have her own experiences, her own creativity, and her own things that bring her happiness. But they do not have to become yours. When you pretend to love everything she loves, her hobbies, her entertainment choices, her style, her social circles, or every interest she has, you do not create deeper compatibility. Instead, you slowly lose the qualities that made you interesting in the first place. You stop being an individual and become someone who simply reflects her identity back to her. At first, she may appreciate the effort and even find it flattering. But over time, something changes. A man without his own interests can appear predictable, overly available, and dependent on the relationship for his sense of purpose. Attraction grows when two people bring different worlds together. Your own passions remind her that you have a life beyond the relationship. You have goals, curiosity, and a personal identity that exists independently. A man who protects his interests, develops his skills, and continues pursuing his own passions becomes someone who can be admired. Supporting her does not mean becoming a copy of her. You can encourage her dreams without abandoning your own. You can stand beside her without disappearing into her world. A woman does not need a duplicate of herself. She wants a partner with his own identity. Someone who brings a world she can experience rather than someone who gives up his world to live only number 10. Never accept a lifelong responsibility without certainty. There are choices a person can recover from, and there are choices that permanently change the direction of their life. Some decisions require patience, clarity, and careful thought, because once they are made, they cannot easily be reversed. Too many people make life-changing decisions under emotional pressure. They act because someone is upset, because others are watching, because the situation feels uncomfortable, or because they fear appearing uncaring. But temporary judgment from others is nothing compared to living with the consequences of a decision made without certainty. When there is genuine doubt, asking questions is not disrespect. Seeking clarity is responsibility. Many people are taught that wanting confirmation means they are being cold or untrusting. But important commitments should never be based only on pressure, guilt, or emotion. A responsible person takes the time to understand the reality before accepting a responsibility that will affect the rest of their life. This is not about attacking anyone's character. It is about protecting your future and making decisions based on truth rather than assumptions. Maturity means being willing to have difficult conversations, seek answers, and avoid irreversible choices made in moments of emotional intensity. A person who protects themselves from unnecessary lifelong consequences is not being paranoid. They are being thoughtful. Major commitments require honesty, clarity, and certainty. A decision this significant should always be built on truth, because the future you create depends on the choices you make today. The pattern behind all these lessons is simple. A man does not lose his strength because someone takes it away from him. He loses it when he begins abandoning the qualities that made him strong. Ignoring disrespect, avoiding difficult conversations, overspending for approval, sacrificing purpose, constantly compromising your own values, pretending to be someone you are not, and accepting life-changing responsibilities without certainty are not acts of love. They are ways of slowly disappearing inside a relationship. A healthy relationship does not require you to erase yourself. Respect is built through identity, boundaries, consistency, and self-respect. And when those foundations disappear, the relationship begins to lose its balance as well. These lessons are not about creating restrictions. They are about protecting your mind, your character, and your future. Every decision you make, every standard you maintain, and every boundary you protect shapes the life you create. Strength is not being aggressive. Strength is not controlling another person. Strength is having the discipline to stay connected to your values, even when emotions make it difficult. When you know who you are and what you stand for, the right person will not feel limited by your standards. They will feel secure because they know you are someone who will not collapse under pressure. Before you leave, think about one pattern you have allowed that has been taking away your peace, your confidence, or your direction. Make a decision to change it. Not dramatically, not for attention, but with quiet certainty. Because when you protect your standards, you do not lose what is meant for you. You remove what was only possible when you accepted less than you deserved. The right person will meet you at the level you maintain, not the level you lower yourself to. Become the person who respects himself first. Because the moment you stop abandoning yourself, everything around you begins to change. Your confidence returns, your purpose becomes clearer, your relationships become healthier,